Chapter 22. Death to Tyrants. With the guards and Luciano's pistols, Angelique ran down the hallway of what used to be her old school, determined to find her parents. Her desire to kick open every door she came across was strong, but her training had already kicked in. Secure the area first, then go for the hostages. A bunch of civilians running around in the middle of a battle only ended one way, and it was not them making it out alive. Angelique held the two pistols with a firm grip, ready for the first blue helmet she could locate. The hallway was long and curved, which made it perfect for a person on a mission like Angelique. With every step, more of the hallway came into view, and it seemed to be teeming with blue helmets. Having no reservations about what needed to be done, Angelique took aim on the closest and pulled the trigger twice, both rounds striking the center of the UN soldier's chest. Almost as if on autopilot, she repeated the action, only stopping to change magazines, and each soldier she encountered received 2 bullets from her, regardless of age, sex, race, or creed. She was quite the fan of the double tap. To Angelique, they were one thing, unwanted guests in her country. Battling her way down the hall, Angelique marveled at how, with the exception of being turned into a prison to house the citizens of Rocktown, the school had not changed much since her graduation. She even thought that she had seen her history teacher's name, Miss Lee, on one of the doors. That caused the memories to come flooding back, when she had put her mark on Karnak by accident, but marked nonetheless, since he still possessed the black dot on the palm of his hand. With reflexes taking over, she fired 2 shots at the next soldier she spotted, ending the short walk down memory lane. Standing alongside the door of the next room she had approached, Angelique thought of how much easier it was to clear a room with just one other person, but it wasn't going to stop her from doing it herself once again. With the pistol still in hand, she pressed down on the L-shaped handle and felt the door open slightly. That was when she knew it was time to move. Since she was by herself, she found it safer to burst through while staying as low as she could get. Now that weapons fire sounded like thunder, anyone inside would be on high alert and aiming for chest or head height at the slightest movement of the door. No sooner did she begin to apply pressure to the door than bullets ripped through, throwing splinters of wood into the air. Only flinching slightly, Angelique continued her push through the door into the room, but instead of just going in at a squat, it was more of a diving action. Laying belly down on the floor, she fired into the room, striking 2 men on the other side who were firing directly at the door. Catching a glimpse of a foot on her way in, she immediately rolled to her side to see a soldier with a surprised expression on his face that seemed to say, "Foul play. You can't do that." Seeing that he was taking aim to fire, Angelique struck out with her boot, kicking the rifle free from his hands. Quickly retracting the same foot up toward her waist and striking out with all the force she could put behind it, she made contact with the side of his knee. Even over the roar of the gun battle outside, Angelique heard the cracking of tendons and bone. Before she could fully appreciate the damage she had caused by the kick, she placed 2 bullets in his chest as his body struck the floor. In what looked like a single motion, Angelique was back to her feet. She cleared the room, gathered what supplies she needed from the dead men, and moved on down the hall. Angelique had one purpose, and that was to eliminate any obstacle between her and her parents' freedom, and with each room cleared and each soldier left with 2 bullets in the chest, she felt she was that much closer. She just hoped that one of the corners she rounded would put Jonathan in her sights. The battle outside raged as hundreds of bullets per second passed from one side to the other. Beneath the canopy of lead, Karnak raced to the nearby building with his rifle up, scanning the area in front of him for any threats. With his back secure, facing the concrete wall, Karnak spotted Todd, whom he had assisted out of the rushing waters of the stream, moving his way as he fired up toward the roof of the main building. Even with Todd still 20 feet away, Karnak could see him smiling through the camouflaged paint on his face as he yelled, "Oh, hell yeah! Now we have got us a battle!" Turning to Todd as he stopped just before touching the wall, Karnak asked, "Why does that make you happy?" "Because I am retired." Todd laughed as he waved in others from the group who followed close behind. Knowing the soldiers of Weisser's squad were not as well trained, Todd couldn't help from keeping a close eye on them. At times, he even enjoyed training on the fly, especially when he'd seen them doing something stupid like placing their backs against a concrete wall. "Get off the wall!" The two soldiers looked at him, confused, and one asked, "Why?" "Because bullets travel down them. They don't magically stop just because they make contact," Todd shouted loud enough for the young soldier to hear as he ran his hand along the wall like a bullet. Seeing there were no more coming, and that a few were lying dead by the stream, Karnak focused on the next objective rather than on those who had fallen. Knowing that the large white building was not part of the school when he had attended, and that it had been built with funds from FEMA, Karnak calculated the quickest path to the building and then took point. Keeping at least 5 meters between each of them so that they didn't make for easy targets, Karnak led them around the building and across the open ground. Karnak could almost feel Robert watching him as he ran for the cover of the next building. It was mostly due to the number of bodies that lay in his way, and those that fell each time he took aim to fire. Reaching the cover of the next building over, Karnak continued walking along the wall and ducking as he passed windows, as those who followed did the same. Reaching the end of the wall, he took a glance back to see just how many were still behind him, and instantly he spotted Todd as a body fell from the roof above. Noticing that the dead man possessed grenades, Karnak watched Todd stop to collect them, and Kate quickly walked around. Turning back to the direction of travel, Karnak emerged from the limited safety of the wall and raced to the buses parked just outside the white building. Only this time the spot he wanted was already occupied by a half-dozen blue helmets. Karnak knew turning back would only get himself and everyone following him killed. With that understanding from years of training and service, his advance did not slow but continued moving forward as he fired into the group of men wearing blue helmets. He could hear firing coming from alongside of him and caught a glimpse of Kate as flames blossomed from the end of her rifle. Kate ran alongside Karnak, firing until the last man fell to the ground and they both stood between the two buses. "What are you doing, Kate?" Karnak asked, knowing she was just scared he would kill Jonathan before she could. Looking directly at Karnak with squinted eyes, Kate replied, "Killing the bad guys. And you?" Noticing that Todd was closing in fast, Karnak dropped the line of questioning and hoped that she had got the point. Walking over to the door of the bus, Karnak pushed in the center of it and slowly pushed it to one side. Keeping a close eye on the roofline of the buildings, Karnak took a step up and looked through the driver's side window of the bus. Spotting the door to the white building, he could only see a few soldiers moving between the open area between it and the main. Suddenly he watched as Jonathan exited the white building with 2 other men dressed all in black, heading across to the main building. Stepping backward off the bus, Karnak took a quick look around, and then stepped back up on the bus just in time to see Kate running for the entrance of the main building. Knowing she wouldn't last long by herself, Karnak followed, as did everyone else behind him. Approaching the glass doors where Kate had entered, Karnak caught the far side just as it was about to close and shoved it open for the others to enter. Before fully inside, he could feel the small shards of glass being cast outward as bullets missed him and struck the door. Karnak saw quickly where the bullets had come from and took aim. Both guards who had been following Jonathan were down, but only one was still firing. Squeezing the trigger of his M4 rifle, Karnak made the 2 men a matching set. Moving cautiously down the hall to where he heard gunfire being exchanged in one of the classrooms, not currently filled with civilian prisoners, he panicked when the shot stopped. Images of Kate lying dead with Jonathan towering above her filled his thoughts as he neared the door. He wanted nothing more than to run into the room, but instead he slowly rounded the corner. With the image of Kate starting to appear, he could feel his years of training begin to take over as he saw Jonathan's arm around her neck with his pistol to her head. Pushing his emotions to the side, Karnak stepped into the room with the red chevron reticle in his optics held steady at the top of Jonathan's head. Knowing his weapon was zeroed at 100 yards, that would place the bullet right through his nose. "I killed you!" Jonathan shouted as he realized it was Karnak who had come through the door. "His name was Sawyer! You bastard!" Kate cursed and struggled to break the death hold he had on her, causing him to push the barrel of the pistol deeper into her temple. Assured he still had control of her, Jonathan began to speak again. 3 days ago, I shot you from the bluff overlooking the camp you had just taken. I know I did. I saw you fall and take the blonde girl with... They heard breaking glass, a zip, and a thud as a bullet from Robert's rifle struck Jonathan, propelling him with Kate. Wanting to know what he was talking about and where he was keeping Angelique, Karnik released his rifle, allowing the sling to carry it to his side. He ran over, and with both hands snatched Jonathan from the floor. Being much larger than Jonathan and full of rage sprinkled with the need for vengeance, Karnik slammed him against the nearest wall, where he was pleased to see he was still alive. Angelique, where is she? Karnik could feel Jonathan's blood running over his hand and was happy to let him bleed out while he held him there. Pulling him away from the wall and slamming him against it one more time, Karnik shouted, "Where is she?" Instead of replying, Jonathan's face contorted in pain and his body tensed up. Looking down, Karnik could see the reason why. Kate had removed his K-bar knife and was slowly sliding it between his ribs into Jonathan's heart, ensuring he felt every bit as she pressed it in deeper. "You killed the man I love," Kate said through her teeth, giving the blade a final twist. Once she had pulled the blade free, Karnik threw his body off to the side and then looked to Kate. "You good now?" He knew there was no use in getting mad at her for killing him before he said what he had done with Angelique. Looking down at the blood pooling up around his body, Kate smiled and remarked, "Wish I could kill him again." Karnik quickly responded, "Well, since that isn't going to happen, can I have my knife back?" He held out his hand. With the K-bar back in the sheath, Karnik and Kate both exited the room to find Todd waiting with the rest of the group. "You two ready? It sounds like this battle is about over and I still have 4 full magazines." Everyone had noticed the level of fire had reduced to just the occasional skirmish. Karnik pulled up his rifle and without saying a word, began heading down the hallway that led to the front of the main building and the adjoining hall. Nearing the end of the hall, everyone moved a little faster after watching 2 men fall to the floor from around the corner, but that was only after hearing the 4 shots that were fired. Karnik posted up just a foot from the corner and waited for whoever approached. Seeing the muzzle of 2 pistols come into view, he then grabbed the nearest one where its owner's hand held the grip and pulled while sticking his leg out to trip the person who was attached. Within a few swift moves, Karnik found himself atop Angelique on the floor, shocked not by the swelling and bruising, but by the fact he had taken her down for the first time. While she was trying to make sense of what had just happened, Angelique could hear Karnik's voice say, "I took you down for the first time." Angelique could feel that things were safe, and what energy she had was quickly running out. Using the last over her strength, she responded, "But I had to be tortured for days in order for you to do so." Then she slipped off into a deep coma-style sleep. Karnik watched as her eyelids closed, and would have continued to watch her had 2 elderly hippies not been pounding on his back, yelling at him to get off their daughter.